Such a wonderful response to our programs today, and all of the programs here will repeat. So if you're having difficulty hearing, or you just like to hear each of these wonderful speakers again, please feel free. I'd also like to call your attention to the wonderful food we have outside in the Hoosac Diner and all of our great exhibits, and please stop by and visit our vendors. And also, this may be your first visit or not, but the Rowe Museum works very hard to present events like this for all of you. We thank you for coming and hope that you'll consider joining us. We have a newsletter, we have a bulletin, we have all sorts of support services for our members. And as you work through the museum, you'll find some of the nice folks who have membership forms, and we would very much like to have you become a member of the museum. Well, now it gives me great pleasure to tell you a little bit about Cliff Schexnayder. He is the author of the higher education textbook, Construction Planning, Equipment, and Methods, and is an Arizona State University eminent scholar emeritus. He holds a construction engineering PhD from Purdue University. The Smithsonian Institute Libraries awarded Cliff a fellowship to research the Hoosac story. He was awarded the American Association of Engineering Societies Norm Augustine Award for Outstanding Achievement in Engineering Communications in 2011, and the American Society of Civil Engineers Outstanding Projects and Leaders Award, Education in 2012. He is a member of the National Academy of Construction, the Accademia Panamericana di Ingegneri, and a distinguished member of the American Society of Civil Engineers. He served with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on active duty in the reserves, retiring as a colonel. He is the author of Builders of the Hoosac Tunnel, a much anticipated study being introduced here today. Another great thing that happens in the Rowe Museum. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Cliff Schexnayder.
I think I can talk loud, but okay. I'm a redneck road hand is what I really am. You know, I work for highway contractors and things like that. Anyway, Hoosac Tunnel, you see the hole in the ground with the train coming at you. And when they started in the 1850s, it was John Henry and his sledgehammer, like Jerry said. That was it. And those guys did shift. Now, they didn't shift, or they didn't pound steel all day. They rotated on a team, because it was two guys with hammers and one shaker, and the shaker and all of them would switch off. But still, it's a pretty good day's work. Like she said, the Dibner Library supported a lot of this work. We've been from the archives in the State House to UCLA looking for stuff. It's amazing where all the Hoosac stuff got shifted to. This is the man with the plan. This guy started to work when he was 9 years old. He probably went to school 1 month a year, saved up a couple $100, and went to school for about 3 months full time, and that's the only education he had. He started as a paper maker. He was the lay boy. He picked up the sheets and hung them up and everything. He was known as Big Red Hands, and that's because when you dip your hands in that hot water, then you wind up with red hands on it. And he figured the merchants in Boston were cheating. He's from Finchburg. They were cheating him. So he would load up one night a week his stuff on his wagon with some oxen. And he would carry his paper goods to Boston and buy his chemicals and come back. Boston was roughly 50 miles away. So you figure if he's 10 miles an hour, maybe 4 or 5 hours, he got to Boston, he sold his stuff, he came back. He knew about transportation, and it was vital for his business. So he was in the idea of building a railroad. He was a fat man. You stick your hands in here and you shake it over that thing, and you build one sheet of paper at a time. He actually continued to rise up, continued to study. He was a member of the General Court in 1835. To give you an idea, the timeline of these things, The first railroad, 1830, we're going up from Boston to Rowe. 1831, we come to Boston and Worcester, and then we go down to Providence. Then the Western. 1833. Crocker was in the legislature. The Western kept running out of money. He approved all those loans to the Western Railroad. They would be the ones that fought him for building a railroad across northern Massachusetts. Next. Here we go. Boston to Finchburg, his town. That was his first one. We're going to introduce you some people. Loamy Baldwin was the one that first proposed a tunnel. This is when they were going to build a canal from Boston to Albany because the Erie Canal had opened up and now Boston was not the head port city of this country. So Loamy said, oh, we can come up the rivers. He surveyed this about 1824. They called it the Summer of Frost because the volcano had gone off way over there in Indonesia. The dust was in the air. It covered it up. It snowed in July here. And that's the year he surveyed the railroad, or the canal. First proposed the tunnel. So then he gets to Vermont, Massachusetts. A guy named, who had actually studied under Baldwin, built that railroad. And some of the people that studied then under him, because Baldwin had died, built these railroads. Crocker actually went to Baldwin and talked to him before Baldwin, about 3 years before Baldwin died, about how to get this railroad through here. And then here we are. 48. 48's the beginning. Well, they didn't actually start. They finally decided we've got to do something, so they marched about 500 feet outside of North Adams. And they took a shovel full of dirt and the band played and they said, we've started. So we count that as the date for the 25 years for the completed tunnel through the mountain. Everybody asks, it's really about 4.75 miles, is what it is. Started 8 January. Crocker kept going back to the legislature because they couldn't raise enough money to do this. They figured they needed $2 million. Finally, in '54, he got a $2 million. You had to do so much work, and then you could collect $100,000 from the state. We opened up 5 April for freight trains only, because they were still had rocks falling down. This is 1875. Finally, we get to 30 April '76. We get the arching done. Passenger trains can go without any restrictions because they're still working in the tunnel. They're still building brick arch. Finally, in '76, July, no restrictions. Trains can go through. Crocker's dream of having a railroad across northern Massachusetts. Finally, in 1887, the state sells the railroad back to the Finchburg Railroad. Crocker was already dead. He died about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they finally went through. First tunnel boring machine in the world, right here. I should tell you something about the Finchburg.
Mr. Bush, it's not on, so you don't need to carry that.
You know, the Finchburg Railroad, this is in the days of the Transcendentalists. Well, what's that guy? Oh yeah, Emerson. You know, Emerson owns that little pond called Walden, where Henry David's going to go. You know, and the Transcendentalists, some of them didn't like the idea of a railroad. And so, but he sold a right-of-way to the Finchburg Railroad. So if you stand over there at one side of Walden Pond, you look across, you see the railroad still there. He took that money, and what did he do with it? He actually invested in the railroad and made money, lots of money. Rowe wants to go out there, you know, because you read all the Rowe's books. He goes out there, and they're building the railroad, the Irishman named Collins, and he buys Collins' cabin for $4.75 to include the nails. He gets the nails, and that's really the cabin he built and wrote his book, Walden Pond, or Walden, you know. So those are the ones. Now, what's that? Oh, Hawthorne, I don't ever say that right, but Hawthorne, the other guy, was with him. He didn't like the railroads. He wrote Celestial Railroad. It says in that book that if you ride the trains, you're going straight to hell. So here's one guy making money, one guy's buying Collins' shack, and the other one said, no, that's a bad deal. Anyway, here's Wilson's machine, 1851. Wilson was a machinist down here in Springfield. This thing is 24 feet in diameter. It cuts, it's got a 12-foot long shaft here, you see it here. And actually it bores a hole in the middle. And the idea was, what this thing would cut was about a foot wide around. You bore that hole, you load that with the black powder, and then you blow that piece out. You move the sheen back, you blow it up, you drop, you clean it up, then you move the sheen again. The machine came in parts from Boston. It was built in Boston. It came in parts to Greenfield by railroad. It was teamed up to the mountain, except everybody, that central shaft, this thing here, weighed so much. They said, nah, you're not bringing that on our bridges. So the people down in Termont and Sheldon Falls and everything, all those bridges. So that had to go to North Adams and get hauled across the mountain. Yeah. There's a picture over there. Jerry's got a model of this thing over there somewhere. I wanted to see a closer picture. This is the guy that actually made the machine, built the machine in Boston. They paid him $25,000 for this machine. This guy also made 440 locomotives, and we'll talk about those a little more because the guy that designed them, Campbell from down in Philadelphia, he finally come up here and tried to build this tunnel. Actually started drawing those things for him when he got out of West Point. He also made steam shovels later on for a guy named Munson. Now Munson had come down as a lad and worked on the Finchburg Railroad, and with some of these other engineers actually went down to the Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore and built railroads down there. Then came back and took these steam shovels and covered up the Boston Back Bay, which the dams were built by Baldwin. There's a connection between all these people over the years there. And it's Munson's locomotive with his name on the side, you'll see at the end, it's the first one through the tunnel. There it is. It cut about 10, 12 feet in there. About today, you used to be able to see this about 20 years ago. Now all you see is a piece of metal pipe sticking up where it was. They did this. The legislatures, they're trying to get the money out of the legislature, so they bring them out here. They bring them out in March. It's cold. It's like 2 degrees Fahrenheit. They pay the guys that own this thing, there's some rock people, quarry people from Quincy. They pay them $200, and they run it for 15 minutes to show the legislatures it'll work. And that's the last day it worked. So they got the $2 million loan from the state. And so this guy comes out and he takes the contract. He says, I'll build it. You pay me the $2 million, plus they're going to pay him some out of the money they sell for the stock and everything. And so he had built the Erie Railroad. He worked on this one. He went to Panama with our government. We surveyed the railroad across Panama. He went there, and he's a pretty clever engineer. He's from New York City. You know, you're surveying through the jungle. It was bad enough to think Baldwin coming through here before anything was out here. And Baldwin did it. He had 2 axemen. I don't know what they had. What happened to us?
That's the help button.
I don't know. Jerry, the help button. Where's Jerry? Jerry, come back. Anyway, he went to Panama, and he took a telescope, and he mounted it on top of his theodolite to do his stuff. He took the hairs off the behind of his monkey to make him some crosshairs. And that's how he surveyed the railroad across Panama. He's a pretty clever fellow. Get the rest of it. Oh, yeah. He also, when he was 19 years old, proposed building a suspension bridge. Anyway, he proposed a suspension bridge across Niagara and actually built the first one. Hey, Jerry, the computer quit. You gotta have an engineer. He actually built the first suspension bridge across Niagara. It stayed there till about 64 or something like that. And the owners of the bridge, they had, just like bridges today, they had cross guys to steady the bridge because of the wind. And one winter, the owners took those guys off because they thought the ice flow would hit them and destroy his bridge. And they didn't put them back. And the next year, the bridge fell down because the wind got it, just like Gallup and Gurney. Anyway. Get it, my friend? We're going to go to Herman Hopp. You still got power. You may have to start over. Hopp had gone to West Point when he was 14 years old. He tried to go when he was 13. Sarah didn't have any money, so Hopp took over the contract. He paid him $20,000 and took it over. He was 4'9". They called him the runt or the little girl or something like that at West Point the first couple of years. They really did. He graduated with people like Meade and Longstreet. He liked to play cards the first year he was there, so he wasn't very high in his class, so they didn't offer him an engineering commission. They offered him, you could go to the infantry, boy. That was in July of '35. He said, I don't think so. So he never really accepted a commission in the U.S. Army. He resigned. They had more officers than they needed in '35. And so he went to work for Campbell. He was designing the 440 engines in Philadelphia. And he's a draftsman drawing those engines. You got to think that the people that actually built them were not educated in the writing and stuff. So you drew every boat where it went, by size. That was the same way Baldwin did all his drawings too. Okay? But like most of these engineers that came and later worked on this thing, these were people that continued to learn. He started studying the dynamics of a train going over a bridge. And he wrote a little book called Bridge Construction. First book on bridge construction in this country because he had studied the measurements, the forces. Couldn't get anybody to print it, so he printed it himself. That was in 1842. He had worked on the railroads then in Gettysburg and Hagerstown. He moved to Gettysburg. He got married there. He built a house. If you go to Gettysburg, the battlefield, his house is still standing there. If you sit on what would be the Confederate side, you know, they got the two ridges and the two lines there. You can go to his house there. His classmate Longstreet in the Battle of Gettysburg set up his artillery right in front of Hopp's house. Yes. Hopp had built the railroads there, though, and he organized it just like they did the Berlin airlift. You took a train load in with all the supplies for the Union Army. You put all the wounded people on that same train, and you came out. And if they didn't unload you on time, you came out. You know, you had a lot of time to run on that track because these were single tracks. They took those wounded. This was the first time we took them to Baltimore, we took them to Washington, D.C., or we took them to Philadelphia. Direct from the